Hello, hi, good evening, good day, or depending on the time you'll be watching. You'll be watching this. Good evening, good morning, good day. Um, Hope you have all enjoyed your Easters, maybe some of you. And then I'm just going to explain the example I gave you guys shortly. And then I'll also use some visuals here. Maybe they will help a bit better to understand what's happening. So the example I made on a practical, I didn't take it anyway. But it comes with experience, of course. So it's here I'm trying to calculate. So we have students, right? We have students, and then for example we have accounting students, and then you have a module code information, but that's not important right now, at least. So I'm assuming that you have student, and then also the practicals. Students do certain number of practicals, right? So the idea is, let's assume the system will be used by maybe lecturers, or I don't know, tutors or whoever, but not students, of course. So the idea is the lecturer is going to put the number of students, right, in a class or whatever in that certain module, right, and then also mention how many practicals they did, like obviously for each student, but then how many practicals each student did. Well, it's going to be a fixed number representing for all the students, not necessarily that each student will have a different value of practicals or number of value of practicals. Number of practicals, yes. Anyways, so is this a recording again? Anyways, so with that being said, so we're gonna the lecture will use this to calculate the sum of the practicals for each student, right? And then using the sum, they can calculate the average value, the average number for that for those practicals, average value, or average value for those practicals, right, of each student, right? And then after that, I have to calculate the average for average. How do I put this? Well, I said average value of all the students based on their practicals, total practicals mark, something like that. I think you'll understand along the way, But yeah, so in a way, this you can assume that it helps whoever that will be using the system to find the total practicals, the average practicals, the average student practical, something along those lines, right? And then we're gonna be using what we call arrays. So array, let's say we have an array, right? I'll start with a single array. A single array goes something like this. Hopefully I won't measure this thing. It's my first time using this thing, so let's this is too small. Brush on. What's the difference here? Let's see. Okay, it's not thick though. How do you make it thick? How do you make it thick? Was it this one? Oh, a marker. Ooh, this is big though. Nope. Okay, this is embarrassing and stuff. But anyway, nope. What? Let me just stick with this one. Anyways, so in an array, it's something like this, right? I'll start with a single array. So we have blocks, right? These blocks they are of a same data type. Or I'll start with a fixed array, and then I'll go with the dynamic afterwards. And then yes, as I was saying, we have some kind of a block here, right? in this block this information will be stored in it. In this case it has 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks, right? And then these blocks are inside a single variable, or like an array in a way. So this is what we call an array, right? This is gonna be hard me trying to write this thing. Okay, yeah, you get the picture. We call this thing an array, guys, right? An array simply meaning a variable which inside you can store multiple variables on different locations in it. And then these locations here, we call them indexes. Well, you can identify them by indexes. And then our indexes here in an array starts from 0, not from 1, right? Well, in the programming manner, yeah, so these are called indexes. Can I write something here? Okay, wait. Yeah, no, I don't get this, but it's fine. So these are called indexes, ne? And then indexes are just the addresses used to locate the location of each block in an array, right? So our block, as I said, our array index is not an array index. Yes, our array index starts from 0. Let me use this. So this block will be 0, this one will be 1, this one will be 2, right? And then the last one will be 3, right? These indexes, this kind of index is recognized in a coding in a coderly way. Well, as human beings, when we set this kind of array, you just input a value making sense, which is 4, because basically they're gonna be 4 blocks in here, right? But then when you wanna access each block inside the array, you're gonna start from 0, because that's what the program realizes. It realizes an array starting with 0, not 1. I hope that makes sense. So yes, array is a variable or a block which has number of blocks inside, and then also these blocks they are of the same data type. For example, this block here, I can make it of integer, of data type int. Meaning the value that will have to be in each and every block will have to be an integer information. Or if you declare it as a string, then same applies. The value inside will have to be a string information on each and every block. So meaning you can't input any value here, and then here you input a string, which will be quotation marks and stuff. You get my point. And then here you input another double or something. So the data types inside, the value inside will have to be the same depending on the data type that you declared it with. So in this case, if it's integer, that means my blocks here will all be of data type integer, right? And then comes the part of declaring and then initialize. This one is called fixed. The reason, well, it's not called fixed, but here I'm assuming this one is going to be fixed. So there's one way we call it a dynamic one, well, a dynamic array, where you don't know the size of the array. In this case, I know the size of the array, which is 4, right? And then yeah, so it's gonna be this array will be of size 4, because I know the size of this array. It's called a fixed array because you know the size of the array, and it's called a dynamic array because you don't know the size of the array. I think I've said a bunch of not confusing, but yeah, I don't know if what I said made sense. And then when you want to access each and every block inside the array, you start from index of 0 and then going upwards, 0, 1, 2, 3, up until the size of the array. And then the size of the array is the one that you input, the one that you set with, right? Minus 1, of course, because yeah, that's how the array works. Anyway, this one is this one it's called a single array, right? And then comes a double array. Okay, let me go to the coding part and maybe you'll see how we declare this thing. This is how you declare. Maybe I can just also zoom in a bit. This is how you declare this one. In this case, this one is not a fixed, it's a dynamic single array, right? Dynamic single array. Only single people will understand that I meant to say single here. But anyway, yes. So yeah, this is the dynamic single array. Why is it dynamic? Because we don't know the size here, hence I didn't put a value inside. Had I known the size, I would have just straight away entered a size in here, right? So a sized one will be something like private, I don't know, array. Let's hope it's not a keyword, it's not. And then you input size, let's just say 4, and then you say as double in this case, right? So meaning this array of mine here will have 4 blocks inside, which you can't see, but you just have to memorize that it has 4 blocks inside. And then to access each and every block inside this array, you'll have to start at 0, 1, 2, 3, and then the third one you'll actually be accessing the 4th block, but then you can't say 4 because that's not how the program works, or the machine works, or the compiler works. So you start from 0, and then it's 1, 2, 3. 3 will be your maximum, or the last block in your array, right? But then the size here is 4, because to us it's 4 blocks inside. Does it make sense? I hope it does. And then maybe let's say we want to input something inside this array here, well, this will I don't know, let's see, I can say array into 1, or actually 0, equals to, let's just say 2, right? And then I'll repeat the same thing. Well, I'm surely there's an example in the textbook for this thing that I'm doing here, but yeah, just maybe you understand. So, and then here it will be 1, and then 2, 3, right? And then let's just say be 8, 6, 4. So in my block now there'll be 2, 4, 6, 8, right? And then this is how you access your index, your block in an array. If you want the first block, you'll have to start with an index 0. These are called indexes here. The numbers that are input inside these brackets, they are called indexes. So I'll have to start state index 0 in order to get my first block, index 1 in order to get my second block. In this case is this block, right? And then 2 and 3 to get my last block, right? And then meaning here I'm saying on my first block, array at 0, I want to save or store this information, in this case is 2. And then here I want to store 4 in array block 1, store 6 in block 2, store 8 in block array, right? Hope it makes sense. And then vice versa, if you want to access information from the blocks, that means you're gonna maybe create an array. I don't know, create a variable. Let's just assume or get value. I'm just creating an example here, and then you're gonna basically something like array, and then add at I don't know which one, or 0. So this will return the value at this index, right? And then save it in this variable here, which is get value. Well, consider I declare this at the top, which I didn't. So, but then it's an example. But anyway, that's a short description of fixed array. Fixed arrays, right? Fixed single arrays. Anyways, let's move. We won't be dealing with this now, but yeah, hopefully that will get you started. And then now we'll have what we call dynamic single arrays. Here is dynamic because I don't know the size of this array. Why don't I know the size of this array? Because I'm gonna ask it from the user. It's cool that you don't know the size, but then the person that will be using this machine or your program knows the size. Hence, you leave it parameterless. In this, is it parameterless? You just leave it the brackets empty, right? And then we're gonna have to do something called this is just declaring, by the way, right? This is just declaring, and then we're gonna have to okay this is just declaring, right? So what are we doing here? So what we're doing there is actually doing something like this. Let me see if I can rubber these things here. Wait, what? I thought this was a rubber. What's going on here? Yeah, text is there. Wait, which one is this one? Okay. Hey, wow. Hey, to live is to go. Qua? To go is to live. Damn. I meant to say to live is to learn. Anyway, I don't know what's up with this thing, but let me just erase this whole thing here. What? Okay, let's see if I can. So to what we are doing there, declaring, is just creating something like this, a block of an array which is empty inside. It doesn't have blocks. Hence, I'm saying we don't know the size of the array. So it might not even be as big as this. It might not just be something like this, which doesn't have index, doesn't have anything. So this is called null in this case. It is null. While null basically meaning it's empty inside. Nothing serious about it. Yeah. So hence we'll have to ask the user in this case we'll have to ask the user the number of student. Okay, now maybe I'll confuse you here because this one is total prac mark, so it's different. But then the total practical mark, this will be used to calculate the total practical mark of each student. So meaning the size will be based on each student because it will calculate for each student. This is very important. The reason I made this is because I want to store these totals so I can use them later. And I'll explain later on the code why I had to declare this variable. I had to declare this as an array, because you can just choose to make this a normal variable just like that. But I'll explain why. But anyways, yes. So this total practical mark will depend or will be based on the number. Will be based on the number of students, because I'll be calculating for each and every student. So when I want to size this variable or this array, will be based on the number of students. Does it make sense? I hope it does, right? So hence here, let me just skip this part of a double array for now. Hence here, I'm asking, I'm taking I didn't put the helping message, but it's fine. Here I'm taking in the number of students from the console, from the user, right? And I'm also taking the number of frags, which will be used for the double array. Just don't mind this for now, right? So I'm taking in the number of students from the console, from the user. The user will tell how many students are attending in the class. Only the user can know that. I, as a coder, can know that. Hence, we call it a dynamic, because I don't know the size of the array. And then the user tells me the number of students, fine. And then we have these things called redeem here. Redeem total number of student. You see how I was able to just declare and put the size on a fixed array, right? And then I didn't have to do this redeem because I know the size. So already it's gonna declare and make those spaces automatically in the memory. So when I don't know the size of the array, it's just gonna create a block of an array without spaces inside. I hope it makes sense. And then when I'm saying redeem wara and then number of students here, and then based on the number of students, if the user inputs 5 here, then this redeem total prac mark into 5, then it will create 5 blocks inside, right? 5 blocks. This is so draining, I don't want to lie. But I hope it helps, because if you don't get it with these visuals that I'm struggling so hard to do, then well, with five values, it's supposed to be five boxes here. So I'm lazy to just I know I'm lazy, champ. So in this case, let's change our assumption. Let's say the number of students, there are 4, right? So it will create 4 blocks inside the empty array. Now it will have blocks inside. Not yet, no information as yet, but just making the blocks. Yeah. That's what the redeem total pragmat into number of students does, right? So yeah, and then I think I've explained the most important part, because now, yeah. And then let's go to a dynamic one. We'll just do a dynamic double array here, which is different from, which one is this one? And then which is, and then anyways, so a dynamic double array, so it goes something like this, right? And I hope it will make sense. So in a dynamic, again, it just create a block. Wait, am I going to get this though? Hopefully I will. So in a dynamic, it creates something like this. Let's say we don't know the sizes yet. Again, still create an empty block. There is nothing inside, right? And then the moment this part here, where I take, oh yeah, by the way, this is how you declare it. When you not, and then you don't know the value, the size of that array, and then if you knew, you were just gonna put a value here and then a value here, then that size will be set to 3 and 2 and 3, meaning 2 rows and 3 columns, right? But then now I don't know the size, so you just do it like this. Anyway, students into bracket, then you put a comma inside. So this is how you declare a double array, right? Dynamic double array. So declaring without knowing the size, we'll just create a block like this. Nothing special about it, right? And then I come to the part where I ask the user, because the user is the one that knows the sizes of my array, then which will be the number of students, the number of prags. Remember, each student will have all the students will have the same number of prags that they'll have to do or they have done, right? We assume so, and then hence the number of prags here, Anish. So yeah, and then after that I come here to the redeem number of student and number of prags. So this is going to be like something like this. It's no longer going to be like this. It's no longer going to be like this, but something like this. Let me just do an arrow here, and then hopefully, let's assume, go to the user input those values 2 and 3, right? 2 meaning 2 rows, 3 means 3 columns. So 2 rows, 3 columns. Well, hopefully you did. What are these? Are they carabs or I don't know? Yeah, something like this. This will be the first row, right, with 3 blocks, and then the second row with the same number of blocks, which is 3. So this is what the redeem does, based on the same the sizes that the user inputs there, and then that's what the redeem is going to do. From having nothing inside the double D array, right, double dynamic array, so to having certain blocks inside, depending on the sizes the user inputs, of course. And also those blocks don't have information as yet, but then they're just making space, or they're just creating blocks in which information will be said or will be entered or will be stored in. I hope it makes sense. So this is what happens in a double array, in a double dynamic array, right? And then now let's just come to the part of inputting information in double array. So I'll have to, when I input information, I'll have to fill the first row, I'll have to fill this first row here with information on each block. Of course, I fill information on each block, wara. Then after I'm done with the first row, then I go to the second. So this will be, remember in coding, this is not actually index 1, it's index 0, right? And then this will be index 1, the below row. And then this in this columns here, this will be index 0, and then 1, and then 2, right? Hope it makes sense. So yes, as I was saying, if I want to input information on each and every block here, I'm gonna have to start on row 1 and then go to iterate each block, meaning 1, 2, while input information, of course, store. After I'm done with that blocks, then I'm go to the second row, then I iterate through the columns, store, and then I store information, store, right? Yes, so I'm gonna have 2 for loops here, one to iterate through the rows and then the other to iterate through the columns. Hence the 2 for loops that you see here, the 2 for loops, never mind the information inside, but then these 2 for loops that you see here. The first one, it loops through this number of students. Why? Because each student will have the number of practicals. We'll have to enter. Well, for each student, you'll have to enter mark they got for each practical, which is what this 2 for loops does here. So here, as you can see, I'm starting from 0 and then say ending at number of student minus 1. Why number of student minus 1? Because remember, the program doesn't recognize my value. So I'm supposed to say number of minus 1 to accommodate this part here. Remember, I might have inputted 2 and then comma 3, right? But in program it's actually 0, 1 and 0, 1, 2, and 0, 1, 2. I mean, for this kind of the dynamic array here, for this size, it's actually 0, 1 rows and then 0, 1, 2 columns. Hence what I did here. Hence what I did here, right? Or vice versa, you can start your R, and then this doesn't have to be R, but then it's just R for row. Makes sense, Nyana. You don't have to start at 0, you can start at 1, right? You can start at 1 here, and then you end at number of students. Then the minus 1 won't be there, but then you just have to be cautious, because that means you'll have to, where is it? Here, you'll have to say R minus 1 inside, because remember, you have to start from the first block in the array, which is 0, right? So when you start at R equals to 1, that means inside this array here, you'd have to say R minus 1, so that it can actually be 0. And then C, you also have to say C minus 1. Had you started at 1 though, had you started your C at 1 and then ended at numprex only, not minus 1, right? I'm just giving you alternative ways to do this. So just so you know that this is not the only way you can iterate through the blocks in the array, right? So I'm saying for R equals 1 to number of students minus 1, right? And then for C equals to 0 to number of prex minus 1. What do I want to do? Okay, here I made a helping message here. Enter prac. Well, yeah, this is just fanciness here. It's not necessarily important for you guys. But here, this thing will say, as shown in the picture, enter prac 1, right? Why this C plus 1? Because I know my C start at 0. So, well, prac there's no... Okay, there is prac 0 though. But that's not what I thought of. I thought, I just took it as if from prac 1, those are the important practical that they take for marks and stuff. Anyways, prac 1, right? Mark of student, this will also be number 1, right? Because R started at 0, remember? Hence I said R plus 1 here, so that it can actually be starting at number 1. So this will say enter prac 1 or mark of prac 2 for the first student, right? And then here, then I'm saying students into R and C, right? This is how you store your information in a dynamic dynamic array, right? And then here I'm getting the information from the console that the user will enter. The user will enter the mark for of practical 1 of practical mark 1, practical 1 mark of student number 1, and then I take that thing, I save it on number R, on block number R, and then row number R, column number C, right? Remember, my R start at 0 and my C start at 0, so it will be saved here on this block. Sure. And then fine. Now let's assume our number of particles, there are 3 now. It comes to 1 now. The C next C is incremented to 1. So now it will say enter prec 2 from prec 2 mark of student 2. And then the user enters that mark. I take it, I store it on student P on R and C. This is, remember, my R is still constant. R did not change to anything. My R is still 0, meaning row number 0. But my column is the one that changes. My column is no longer 0, but it's now 1. So it will be 0 and 1. Which block is that one? It's actually this one. 0 and 1. Makes sense. So, and then my C will increment again, and then the user will input, and then on 0 and 2, the number will be stored here. When you say 0 and 2, right, now the inner loop has done. The inner loop has done execute. Now it's going to come to the outer loop, because now my C is now 2, right? 2 is equals to 2. So this for loop will break. Now it will come here and say next R, and then which my R is incrementing from 0 to 1, right? And then what does it do? It comes again to the inner loop, and then it loops for the second student, and then same applies. The user will enter the mark on block 0, 1, and 2, right? That's how it's operated. That's how the array is operated, or that's how the loop or the iteration in arrays operate. And I hope it makes sense, because going forward, it's just a matter of explaining calculations. Because hopefully you okay, maybe this one is important also, this part here. And the reason why I said I made total prec marks to be an array. Okay, sure. Now we're done in taking in information from the user, right? This is gonna be a long voice note, but anyway, a long video. So we're done taking information from the user. Now we need to calculate the sum of the practical marks added together. Well, that's the sum, basically the sum for each student. Then I'll store each in an array also, or the mark that I got for each student I'll store in an array. And now you'll see why I say I need to store that in an array, because you just have to be careful here. It depends on whether you're gonna use that information later on, or maybe you'll just use it in that instance and then you are done. So yeah, anyways, so here again, I'll have to look from I'll have to look from 0 to number of students, because I'm gonna be saving the total price on each and every student, I guess. And then here I'm initializing my total prec mark of size R, while on index R to 0. Basically what it does here, I remember my R start at 0, which represent the first student in a way, right? And it's gonna be stored to prec 0 equals to 0. So I'm basically saying I want to initialize my first block, right? My first block to be 0. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense. And then while this is being for now, it will be my first block, because I'm starting at 0. Then comes for the next for loop here, which I iterate from C equals to 1 to number of precs minus 1, right? What am I doing here? I'm actually getting to calculate the total prec marks. What does this plus equals to mean? The plus equals to mean total prec mark into R equals to total prec mark plus students P into R comma C, right? What does this do? It calculates, it adds up the practicals. Okay, what does it? Let me show you what does this do, right? So what does this do? This line alone, this students into RNC, it is used to identify each block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like this block here, this student into RNC, just the same as what we were doing here while we were storing information. I'm now accessing information in those blocks. Not accessing, yes, it's accessing. I'm now pulling information into each and every block in that array, right? This is what I do, because now you see, now I'm not assigning. I'm assigning to another variable, which is total R. So basically what I'm doing here, Remember I'm saying this is total pragma into R equals to total pragma plus wara plus this again for in descriptive manner. So and then my total pragma started 0. It's initialized to 0 here, right? So it's basically saying 0 plus student into R and C, and then R and C, they all start at 0 1. Oh wait, this is a mistake. Yep, this is my mistake. This is supposed to be 0. Yeah, so my R and C, they all start at what? At 0, right? So this will access this first block here, but this time around I'm not storing, I'm pulling information from this block. That information, I'm adding it with the 0 here. Where does the 0 come from? Remember this total pragma into R here, right? Which simply means total pragma into 0, causes the first student, and then I assign it to 0. Then it's going to be 0 plus that information, that certain block, and then you store it in the same variable again, right? So for example, if in this block here we had 50, I'm just gonna give, let's just assume we had 50 in all, so it's just gonna be 0 plus 50, right? And then that 0 plus 50 will give you 50, and then will be saved in another separate array, which I don't know how. Wait, where is it not the writing here? Yeah, in another separate array, which is called total pragma, right? But then this one is not a double dynamic array. It's a single dynamic array, and then as I said, it is based on the number of students. In this case, we have, yeah, this is big, but yeah, we have, because we have only 2 students. We're still assuming that we have 2 students and stuff. Yeah, we're still assuming that we have 2 students, so it's something like this, right? And then yeah, it's what happens there, it takes the, yes, it takes the 0 plus 50. Remember this block here we have is, yeah, this is going to be complicated. So I'm basically taking this block here which has 0, right? And then I'm placing it with this one here which has information, and then that information will become that information. In this case, let's say assume it's 50. Now my block won't be 0 anymore, it will be 50, right? Yes, so I'm still on the same block. Remember my R is still 0, but now I move to C increment to 2. Now I'm going to the second block, so this second block has information also. Let's assume again it's 50, so it's going to be 50 minus the previous amount in this block, which is 50. Now the block will be 100, right? And then remember my 0 is still at 0, my C is still at 0, but my C is not done. My C is supposed to come to this last block, which is the second, which is index 2, right? It has information also. Let's just assume that information is 50. Then it's going to be 50 plus the previous amount, which is in this block, which will be 100. Then it will be 100 plus 50, which is 150. And then the same 150 will be stored in the same block, right? Now this loop will end now. This inner loop will end, because this will loop only 3 times, 0 1 2. Now my R will be incremented to 1, which now moves my student to seconds, well, which now we go to, meaning we go to a second student now. And what does this do again? It initializes my block in that index to 0. Now I'm going to start with 0 in here. I do the same, but then for this time for the second student, so it's going to be 0 plus into where C is equals to 0. And then well, now, yeah, 0 plus, not 0, okay, yeah, because I'm initialized to 0, but then this block is no longer, okay, this block was 0, now this block was 1, ne? On this one block, which is the second student, I'm inside this block, the information stored is 0 for now, so I'm gonna be 0 plus the one that is stored in here, whatever that value is, and then I store that same value here. Then now it will no longer be 0, it will be that new value, and we do the same, going up, incrementing our C to 1 and then to 2, and then yeah, finally this will, I hope it makes sense. So now at the end of the day, we'll have an array, right? An array which has 2 blocks inside, for representing each student, right? In this case, we'll be having 2 students, and each block will have the total number of breaks, the sum of them, the sum of the total number of breaks, the sum of the breaks all added together, the sum of the breaks all together, right? In this case, it would be 150 in here, something like that. I won't be able to write it here, but I hope you get my point. And then here maybe it will be some other value. I don't know what value will be. That will that be some other value, right? Now I have this block of array here, which I can access anytime later on in the practical. I mean, not in the practical. Why am I so excited? Later on into coding, right? This I don't have to worry that where the information will be leaked away, wara, and all those things. This I can access information. I can access the information in this array anytime in the code, whether later down there or wara anywhere, right? So hence it comes to the point where I want to explain, like here, why didn't I use the array? Why didn't I use the array for this one here? Why didn't I make this average mark practical an array, right? And it depends. If maybe you're gonna have to use, if had I, in this case, this average, I'm only gonna be using it here only. I won't be needing this anywhere else after this. So I didn't see a need for me to use an array, or which will just be waste memory, because in that case I'll be creating an array, and then I'll have to store each and every information inside, and then after access it here when I'm displaying it here. When I'm displaying it, I'll have to access it and stuff. So no, I chose not to do that. I chose to just declare a normal variable, right? Because the idea is, after getting the total mark for each student, now I divide by the number of pregs, right? The total preg mark for each student, I divide by the number of pregs to give me the average mark for the practical, the average mark for the practicals of each student, right? So what I did here is that I displayed the same time calculating. Maybe had there been an option that maybe, I don't know, maybe I choose to display this information here later on, like maybe later on, let's say maybe when we are calculating everything, then I chose to display this maybe somewhere down below here, right? I'm just giving an example. It wouldn't make sense. Why? Because it would take the last average preg calculated of the student. It wouldn't take for each student, but it would take the last one. Because remember, this is not saving it into an array, unlike this one where I can access them later. This one only saves the current, or the latest information being stored in this variable, right? So what I'm doing here and then displaying at the same time is that for the first student, it will calculate the average, display it onto the console. Now that is done, comes back for the second student, calculate and then store the new current average mark for that student, and then it displays it on the console and goes to another student. I hope you get my idea, because if I were to maybe display this somewhere down there, it will loop for each and every student, but then the disadvantage grade will take the last average preg mark for the last student, and then it will display that mark here down there. I hope you get the difference. While as we're making a variable in array like this, or like what I did here, I can later on just use the same variable then to access information inside, just like what I did here. Here I was supposed to take the total mark, the total practical mark for each student, add them together, and then when you add them together, that the value that you get, you divide it by number of students, and to get an average, which is what I did here, right? Had I not making this an array, right, this would take the last total mark calculated for the student. It will take the total mark, the total practical mark, the sum of it for the last student. I hope this makes sense, people, because if it doesn't, then I don't know. You'll just have to watch on YouTube other people how they explain this kind of things. But yeah, I hope it makes sense. But also, I think when you continue coding, hopefully with these arrays and stuff, you'll get to see the difference. You will learn along the way why sometimes there's a need to make a variable an array, sometimes they ain't. You'll learn along the way. So like I was saying here, making this total pragmatic an array, it helps me to access it helps me to store each and every total practical mark for each student in an array, right? Now I know that my values are saved. There's no that thing already. Maybe the total prag mark of student 0, student 1 and 2, they are lost, and then only took the last the mark for the last student. There's no such thing. They are all saved in this array. Now here later on I can access from the first student the amount or the total practical mark. I access it, and then I forgot to say to initialize this one. It's not necessary, but just for good practice in J, we can. What did I do? Okay, it's fine. So this one here, I can just initialize it here, just for good practice. So here I'm initializing my thingy to this variable to 0, right? So basically here it's going to be average mark student equals to average mark student. In this case is 0 plus total prag mark into r. My r start at 0 for the first student, and then I get that value, right? And then it's gonna be 0 plus that value, and then the answer is saved in here. Then it goes for the second student. We have 2 students in this case. Then my r will be 1, and then says total prag mark at 1. I get that value. I added with the previous other mark student, which is what that value of the first student, and then I add them together. They gave me the sum, and I save them in here, right? And then now, because this and this, they're different, right? No, not different. No. What I meant to say was, what is it again? Yes, here I am just. Oh yes, yeah. Then after calculating the total whatever, I'm taking the same thing again, and then I divide by the number of students. Now I get the average mark of students. The average mark of student is now that I get it. Even though I used the same variable, because honestly speaking, I could have used a different variable here. Here, maybe I could have just used total mark student or something like that. Then here will be total mark student. Then this will be total mark student divided by number of student. Then I get the average mark student. But I just chose to use one variable here. I hope it doesn't also confuse it. Then I display here. That's basically what happens in this example of mine. So if you still have any question, unfortunately I won't be taking any question up. I don't know up until when, but the idea is maybe you've understood this thing, because it's similar to your practical, just that I just switched some things here and there. But I hope also this visualization here made sense a bit. Hopefully it made sense a bit. And I think it's better when you draw and then get to understand what's happening, and also in terms of calculating, right? Because like for the example I made here, that I made, or the reason why I made my total prag mark an array, you can also just create a normal variable here. A normal variable doesn't even have it has only a single block, yes, just like this. This is a normal variable, right? So in this normal variable, only a single information can be stored, right? So had I made this thing of here, had I not made it an array, so it would be looking something like this, right? The loops will still iterate still, because I have to access information on RNC, right? Basically these blocks here, I have to access information inside these blocks here, right? And then so what it's going to do is going to be, say, the information in this block plus the information in this block. This block will be initialized to 0, just the same as here, but then this time don't have the array, right? And then it will be that information in this block plus the information in this block. It will be then that information, or whatever the sum is, then will be saved in this block, right? No stress. Comes again to the second block, this information plus the previous one, then calculate the sum. Then this information plus the previous one, it calculates the sum. Now that will be good, right? But then the trick comes when now the loop goes for the second student. Remember, for the second student, after going to the second student, this thing, it will be initialized to 0 again. Then now, meaning this information that was in here will go away. Now my new information will be 0. Then I do the same for the second student. Blue, add warawara, add warawara, add warawara. Although the second student information will be saved because there is no next student, right? Had there been the next student, actually the last student, the information of the last student would be the one saved in this variable here, in this normal variable, right? And then what you're doing here when you say you divide wara, you're actually going to be just dividing the total of the last student, and then wara, and then you output it. Am I wrong? Oh no, okay. No, I am wrong. Okay, I am wrong, guys. Why am I wrong? Because it doesn't matter, because I'm still in the for loop. I'm doing this average wara in the for loop here, inside the for loop. So when it's done calculating the information in the block for the first student, right, it calculates the average and then it displays it. Well, we're just assuming again that this is not an array, and then it displays it, right? And then goes for the second student. Then the thing is, okay, it won't give a problem. A problem will come here when you want to access those total mark for each and every student, and then you did not make an array. So you'll only be able to use the last total mark which is saved in here, which will be for the last student. So you won't be, I hope, I really hope you'll get my point. Otherwise, if you don't get it, just practice. That's all I'm gonna say. Just practice. Hopefully you'll get it. I think I did enough of explaining. I can also hear that my English is depleting, as if I had a bundle of English. But anyway, yeah, that's just it for this example that I made. Yeah, I really have nothing to say. Yeah, I'm tired also. So yeah, just practice not until you get it right, but until you can't get it wrong, and then you know you're in the right track at least. So yeah, have a good day. Yeah, peace out, guys. Yeah.